Hello everybody, Eddie Hates Slop here, and thankfully today's video is not reviewing slop. I'm actually reviewing a pretty good time. Wonder Man, the newest MCU installment, coming in the form of an 8-episode miniseries from the minds of Destin Daniel Cretton and Andrew Guest. Starring Yahya Abdul-Mateen II as our main character Simon Williams, who, when it comes to Yahya, I've only seen him in a couple of things, probably for the first time back as Black Manta back in the day, in the Aquaman films, one of the only bright spots of the old DCEU, but no need to reopen any old wounds here. Let's talk about his co-star. Ben Kingsley returning as the quote-unquote Mandarin. Not the actual Mandarin, the fraud from Iron Man 3. The series follows their blossoming friendship as well as both of them aiming to get roles in a Wonder Man remake movie. And that's the surface level. There's a lot more to it than that, which we will get into because somebody's got a secret. Or actually, a couple somebodies have a couple of secrets. But yeah, we're gonna yap about it. Gonna do non-spoilers first, then at the end, we'll do a tad amount of spoiler talk. There isn't too much I want to say, but mostly about the ending. It will still happen, so timestamps and all that will be there. Also, subscribe if you're new. Now, Eddie, what the frick do you mean remake of Wonder Man? This is the first MCU Wonder Man project. How can they remake something that's not there? Well, let me explain. In this universe, Wonder Man is a retro superhero film, not an actualized superhero. Simon Williams, our main character, is trying out for the role in the remake of this movie years later because he is an actor. Now, one problem. Actors are not supposed to be superpowered individuals. And that's Simon's big secret. Ever since he was young, he's had some sort of powers that are clearly tied to his emotional and mental state, his inner rage. And his powers at first are kind of just like shown as he can break things when he's mad. But once they get farther into the series and they start explaining them, I'm not going to get into it because I don't know if that counts as spoilers or not, but funny enough, do resemble, from what I can tell, the actual Wonder Man comic powers are a little bit, but I'm getting ahead of myself. One thing I really like about the show is its portrayal of MCU Hollywood. It's some pretty good world building for a side of the universe we don't usually get to see. Hell, they even had a whole episode 4, surrounding a character named Doorman, their rise to fame, and the outcome of them acting with powers and why the whole rule of no powers in this space was created. And that was an awesome episode, all black and white, just a great vibe. The fact that a show can just do that, just to explain one clause in the system, and it still be fascinating, is pretty awesome. The storytelling foundation on this premise had potential, and they delivered on it. On the flip side of the movie stuff, we have the MCU stuff, I guess. Cleary, the guy from Damage Control. I hate him. He was in Spider-Man and shit, but he wanted Simon. He knows he has powers, and that he's allegedly a threat to humanity. So he strikes a deal with the fake Mandarin, whose name is Trevor, to gather info on Simon in exchange for his freedom. I won't lie. One, I like Trevor here in this series the most out of all of his appearances. And two, I don't even remember him in Iron Man 3, or even Shang-Chi for that matter. I'm not gonna lie to you. But that's okay. I remember what he does, like the events. I just don't remember the actual performance, but it doesn't really matter that much because he's great here. It's a story where the friendship starts off as a false premise, obviously, to gather info on Simon, but him and Trevor's friendship does become real, and it's kind of tragic in that way. The personal stories for these two are really well done, and I like that we have something so focused on the personal rather than setting up things. All this show sets up is potential for Wonder Man, and a couple of name drops of things that already exist in the MCU, like Roxxon and Damage Control, but you could watch this all on its own, leave it all on its own, knowing nothing about the MCU, and be 1000% fine. Kind of random, but I also think the font for the Wonder Man show is really good. Real classic, nice bright yellow, kind of retro, just really clean. And when they introduce episodes with it, I'm just like, ooh, chef's kiss. The music is also really good. Lots of very fitting timing with moments for vocal tracks. I don't remember a lot of the names, but if you focus on the lyrics of said tracks when they play, they are very purposely placed, whether it's at the end of an episode or mid-episode, it doesn't matter, but they do a really well job using statement pieces or reactionary pieces for those end credit lead out tracks. As for the actual composed score from Joel P. West, it is wonderful. One thing I really liked in particular was the series of tracks with Simon Williams in the title. It's a repeated melody, and I just found it really neat. Simon Williams' set is a quirky one, really feels like it shows the Simon William he presents to the world, but also something's off as it continues, as if there's something we aren't getting, as if this is all an act. A very fitting track for the character, at least that's my interpretation of it. And it kind of works because there's a reprise later called Simon Williams' Dream, and that is more haunting, The synths are more prevalent, just a really cool character theme, a little bit of taking off the disguise. In between those two, there's a plethora of them in the soundtrack. I can't remember the order they show up in the actual series, but there's also Simon Williams, Kathy Friedman, the most elegant and I've made it version of this, The Real Dream, once again works perfectly for that moment. Simon Williams Hits the Road, which emphasizes the strings and harmonies. Simon Williams Shoes Off, an almost low-key Western one. Simon Williams Arrives, which is pretty eerie as well, a vocal rendition of the instruments, which can always get a little crazy, but then it transitions into a more traditional version of the theme. A Normal Day for Simon Williams with some wacky keys. And last but not least, Simon Williams Wonder Man, a slower, hopeful rendition. All of those really tie together for what I can only applaud as a job well done for the musical composition of Simon Williams. So I did want to put a magnifying glass to that specific part of the soundtrack for a bit. But moving on to the filming part, the actual cinematics. The colors have these warm tones. It doesn't maintain the visual consistency of the rest of the MCU. It really has its own atmosphere. Even as early as episode 1, I noticed a shot that would be a perfect zoom out normally, but instead it had a slightly shaky hand moment. But in that imperfectiveness, it shows the humanness of it. That's kind of my favorite thing of this project as a whole. It doesn't feel like the scope of what it is. It feels closer to an indie project made by a smaller studio with lovers of the craft instead of another MCU project with more billions thrown at it. There's basically no action save for the last episode, which is the most MCU-ish of the episodes, if you want to call it that. Which is fine, because first of all, it is an MCU project, it's inevitable. And second, the series as a whole still has a very controlled tone. It's a lot more grounded. The flashy stuff is flashy in the eyes of mere mortals, such as the social ladder, not powers and things. Stuff that we can truly relate to and see feasible in our own lives, I guess. I would even go as far as to say that this show is a slight risk for Marvel with how much it doesn't focus on your typical stuff. If you showed this to a lot of the general population without saying that it's MCU, I'm sure a lot of them would not be able to guess it's Marvel, or maybe I'm glazing too hard. I don't know. It's also full on just a meta commentary on superhero films being repetitive, that superhero fatigue and remakes in general fatigue. Super self-aware, but uses that to its advantage and almost in the messaging. So W there. Moving on to the acting. Ironically, the actors acting like they are acting in a series about acting is what captivated me, if that makes any sense. Take Simon, for example. From the beginning, they make it clear he cares about the craft first and foremost, to the point where it gets him fired from an acting job. But I like seeing his gears turn, his mind work. Trevor, with all his misgivings, is also about the craft at heart, even telling Simon at some point, screw this Netflix project with you as the lead, do a play instead. You know, the truest form of acting. Speaking of acting shindigs, I think my favorite piece of dialogue from the series, verbatim, I can't recall exactly what it is, but it's something like this. Acting is not a job, it's a calling. It's the single most consequential thing you can do with your life. It's from episode 2, and it's so telling the mindset for creatives where it's do or die. You throw so much of your life away, so much of your chance at a normal life because you're out here grinding, focusing solely on this one dream, and you either make it or break it, and not everyone can make it. At the end of it all, the characters feel this theme of who are you really, which is really cool considering the backdrop for this is tons of lies and a supposed bonding and trust between our two leads. So, you know, we gotta peel the layers back because there's a real them under all those layer onions things, what Shrek said. Sorry, I'm recording this at midnight, so I'm kind of cooked. I'm reading off a script, but clearly not doing it well, and I can realize that, but I also want to put this video out. So we're going to keep yapping. Another awesome thing about Wonder Man, and this is like super subjective, but it was an easy watch. Not in the sense of, ooh, there's no substance, you could turn your brain off, but like an easy watch as in, I'm forgetting I'm watching something, I get super immersed and time flies the fuck by. Since I watch so many things, sometimes even with things I enjoy, I get too caught up sometimes seeing episodes as a number, being super self-aware of the fact that I'm in the middle of watching something, and I treat it as more of a completionist checklist as opposed to, and forget the fact that I should probably be enjoying this too. Like, oh, I gotta watch this today, that tomorrow, this Saturday. With this, I at first thought I'd have to pace myself because it dropped all 8 episodes on the same day, and I totally forgot it was coming out until the day it came out, so I was like, oh, I'll do 2 episodes today, 2 here today, so we finished it, but I ended up binging the hell out of it. I could not stop watching it because of how entertaining it was, and you could not have distracted me if you wanted to. So actual W, the episodes are also shorter than traditional live action shows. They have a sweet spot between like that in an anime episode. Anime being between 20 to 25 minutes. Live action shows being anywhere from 45 minutes to movie fucking run times these days. This was always in that 30-minute ballpark. It was just a real nice little spot to be in. And like I said, they dropped all 8 episodes on the same day, which is another reason I was happy that I enjoyed it as much as I did, because my watch schedule's already hell. But I don't know why they switched to that format. I kind of don't like it. Yes, it's nice having it there to watch when I want to from the get-go, in case I want to watch it all. But weekly releases encourage hype and discussion, and makes it less daunting to get into for newcomers the first few weeks, because there's not too many episodes to watch to catch up. But when you have them all at once and discussion ends after a week or two, it's easy to feel like you already missed your chance to join that party, for the general population at least, I assume. But like I said, I liked it, and I think everyone should give it a chance. It's real good, grounded, human. Just a real touching tribute to the craft from Marvel here. And when Marvel makes a banger, I'm always happy. I think I'm going to end the main portion there. I could talk about a lot more because it's like family stuff and other things. But at the end of the day, I watched this a lot more for the sake of enjoyment than I did for like I said, I was just so caught up in watching it. I didn't really think to write down anything notes-wise in between episodes and stuff. I was just really chilling. And I'm going to leave it like that. You know, I don't want to overanalyze and overthink anything right now because it is so late. And I just finished writing the script because I just finished watching it earlier. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. So just please check it out. Even if you're falling off of Marvel, I think you can just check it out. Just check it out. Just check it out. I think everyone can take a little something from it. Because like I said, it is just so heartfelt. It's really in the right place. But before we end the video, spoiler talk a little bit. Literally just about one thing. So leave, come back for the outro, or just leave the video. But the ending. Nothing to say besides acknowledging that he broke Trevor out. So W friend there. There could have just as easily been an ending of him living the good life and regretting leaving Trevor, but doing nothing about it, ending it on that somber note. But that's not who Simon is, and that's not an MCU flair type of ending. That's why I say this is the most MCU-ish episode, because he broke the boy out and used his powers. So now the world thinks that the fake Mandarin is the Mandarin again. Like, ha! I faked you into thinking I was fake, but I was really bad, I guess. And for Simon, I wonder if he will just take up, because I talked about this in the non-spoiler section, I wonder if he'll just take up the Wonder Man mantle, because he's already recognized worldwide as Wonder Man. It really depends on if he's caught here as Simon, because he was messing with the cameras and stuff. I have a feeling Cleary will know it's him anyways, especially seeing how tight him and Trevor are. I can't imagine nobody guesses who broke him out. But in the eyes of the public, I still think he can be a hero. He didn't really do anything too evil. I mean, I guess he broke out Trevor, who people think is a terrorist, but also all the reactions to him as a terrorist in the series are so casual. They're like, oh my god, it's the Mandarin. Don't you terrorist? So I don't even know. But if anything, Damage Control is worse. Look at how they fucking handled the New York wreckage, the Battle of New York wreckage. But I digress. And that's literally it for the spoiler section. Like I said, just not much to say. Now on to the outro. I just want to say I fell in love with not only the atmosphere of Wonder Man, but also Wonder Man himself, Simon Williams. When will we see him again? A season 2? I don't know. Like I said, this stands alone. But if we were to have that conversation, potential sequel aside, I'm not even sure what he'd show up in. He's in that transitional phase between yes, I have powers to I'm a full-fledged hero. And who's to say he'll even get there or needs to get there? Now that we have a lot more smaller scaled series and shows and showcases and things, he can show up in a lot more casual settings than needing to be an Avenger or in some sort of world-ending threat type of thing. But I just want to see him again because I love him and I can't stand loving characters then the MCU just not showing us them for the rest of the phase. Shang-Chi, I'm looking at you. Netflix Marvel, before Daredevil paved the way for the returns, I'm looking at you. Moon Knight, I'm looking at you. But yeah, banger series. Peep it if you haven't. Not much else to say, but subscribe. Sorry if I seem like I'm speedrunning this video. I'm really tired. I really just want to get it done, which feels disrespectful for how much I like the series, but that's not what I'm meaning here. There's just only so much time in a day, and I got other videos to put out so I can catch up, so I'm trying my best, man. Also, speaking of catching up on reviews, I forgot to ever make the Marvel Zombies review. I totally forgot, because that came out in what, like August, September, October? I don't even remember, but it was a while ago. Or was it even that long ago? Hold on. Now I gotta check. Marvel Zombies release date. Please don't give me the comic. It was September, so that is pretty long ago. Would you guys still want that review? Because I promised I would do it when I made the Eyes of Wakanda video, but I totally forgot. But I'll still do it. It's only 4 episodes, so I can even rewatch it if I really want to like get into it for the sake of the review. Let me know, or is it too late, or do you still want it? I don't know. But yeah, that's been me. Shout out Wonder Man W series. Subscribe and peace. Bye.